Not like that. Not in the sense that he's only showing disregard for his own health. I think there are some cases, there are some situations where we can look at it that way. My concern, for example, we looked at helmet laws before. We talked about helmet laws a lot, and by and large, the guys who don't, that don't want to wear helmets and say that this is none of your business. If I crash, it's fine. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with assisted suicide, euthanasia things. But we also have a responsibility to people to make sure that they're protected to some extent from themselves. I think this is my personal take on it. Because we know that depression passes.
So you're going to externally impose?
We already do externally impose. We lock people up, but we do it in the extremes. But when I was talking about his thing, by and large, and my thing with the helmet law, is that I think if you're going to have a law that nobody has to wear helmets, then anybody, if you don't have to wear on a motorcycle, when there's a demonstrated cost to this, is that if you're on a motorcycle and you crash and you wind up in hospital, you are entirely responsible for your hospital bills. The rest of us shouldn't have to pay simply for something that you chose to do, because now it's no longer affecting you, it's affecting everybody else. And that is one of the things that I keep harping on, because people ask, why are you so concerned about people's beliefs? Because beliefs matter. They inform actions, they inform that they control what decisions you make, and those actions have consequences, and none of us live in a vacuum, which means every action I take, it can potentially affect lots of different people. Even if I think
you need to lose weight then, because it's costing society money.
I know.
And the government has the right to impose that on you. Perhaps even the moral obligation to do so.
And in
that case, I would have to severely disagree with you.
I would argue that there's a good reason to revisit what sort of medical benefits we allow people based on the actions that they take. I would have to concede that there may be some necessary action in there.
So a rich person is free to risk his life or be fat, but a poor person is not, even if he can afford his own insurance.
If they can afford their own, if you can afford your own, you're good.
Except that many people will argue that, yes, but by you risking your body, it's going to make my insurance premiums as part of the pool go up. You can expand this thing and follow it to logical conclusions where you can't do anything.
Sure, and you can also draw a causal chain back to my great-great-grandfather. But we tend to look at things with regard to their proximity, and so there's a field of effect that any given action can have. For example, when I'm driving down to the back roads here in a little bit, I might take an action that forces somebody else to hit their brakes, which forces somebody else to hit the brakes, and 20 or 30 cars down the line, they have an accident because somebody else. There are other factors regarding how other people pay attention, etc. Am I responsible for all that? No. The identifying cause of an effect needs to be both necessary and sufficient and proximal. And so I think we can identify a field of influence for any given action. And so I think that part of what you're saying, and I agree, you can't follow these things down a slippery slope, otherwise you're never going to you're going to have imposition even when your system says you shouldn't. So that I now ended on something that I wasn't going to end on. I'm going to avoid specifics.